Hey, what's up, geeks? Darron Brown here. And first off, what I want you guys to do for me, I want you to keep an eye out on my volume of my videos. So right now, I'm using the same microphone that I've been using, except this microphone, it has a collection of different settings. So I've been trying different settings to make sure that I can give you guys a quality sound. So yeah, check out the sound and then let me know in the comments how it's coming in for you. Now anyways, this video is going to be about startups and working for a startup, and if you should work for a startup, and then what I recommend for you as a developer, especially if you're starting out. So now let's get into it. I'm just going to start doing these videos off the top of my head, and then if you see me looking down, it's because I have a card. I have a few notes, a few topics that I want to make sure I address per video, and I just want to keep it going because it's going to make it more authentic for you guys. All right. So first thing I'm going to cover is the pros. Now, the first thing I have down is you get to wear many hats. Now, if you guys are following me on Instagram or you've seen any of my interviews that I've had on other YouTube channels, you would know that I've done a collection of things before I actually became a mobile developer. And one of the things that I wanted to do straight out of college was to wear many hats. Now, and the reason for that is because I had a long-term vision of becoming an entrepreneur and basically owning my own business someday. And I felt like by only wearing many hats for a company, I would touch a lot more things, and it would enable me to learn more about different areas of actually building a company. You know, if you're working just as a software developer, you're going to just focus mostly on the tech things, and if that's what you want to do, you can do that. And then also if you're working for a startup, you know, you'll do the tech side, but you'll also do a lot of the project management side. You'll do a lot of the designing side. And they may even need you to do like back-end work. You may need to do some things on the server side. People will leave startups pretty frequently. So you may even have to take over a managerial side, something like the potential COO or CTO. Something around that label of the company. So just keep that in mind, that if you are working for a startup, be prepared. Just be flexible and be prepared that you may have to do more things than what your actual application states that you have to do. Now next, we have your voice is heard. Now this was a big concern for me at the last company I worked for. The last company I worked for, I actually, they gave me a lot of room to grow. And they allowed me to do a lot of things, which is why I chose to work for them. You know, the pay was good, and they've been around for about 20 plus years. But because the tech team was so small, I was able to do a lot of different things. Now, the problem is that my voice wasn't always heard. My voice was respected amongst some of the leaders in the company. I want to say the CTO, the CEO, a few guys on my team. But the thing is that I intimidated the lead engineer. He wasn't the lead engineer, but eventually he became the lead because another engineer had left the company, and for most of the time he had been there for 6 years, and him and this other engineer were just the only engineers. But the company was expanding, and he just was intimidated, man. You know, I'm handsome. You know, I worked my ass off, and I knew what I was doing. You know, the guy, he only I think Code Fusion was, so his tech stack was pretty limited. He'd been doing Code Fusion, and a lot of companies don't even hire Code Fusion developers anymore. So he was intimidated for that fact, and he also, you know, I'm a React Native developer. My background is JavaScript, I understand that. So whenever I said anything around React Native, he would speak as if he knew more about React Native than I did. And because he had been there longer, you know, some of the other guys would take his word over mine, and they'll be like, and then there'll be issues. I'm like, why are you listening to this guy? He doesn't have the background in this tech stack, you know. But really, what it came down to, people would give uninformed opinions because of their insecurities, and that's not something that you really can control. It's something that the corporation, the leaders, have to control. My boss was actually my supervisor. He was actually a pretty cool guy. He just really insecure, you know. So he would have moments where he would just say some like off the wall, and I would call him out. He would say it He was just like that. He was just that type of person. And then every now and then he would be intimidated by me, not by technical stuff, because he could teach me some technical stuff. Even though we were in different tech stacks, he was doing. Man, he's been coding for like 20 plus years, and he just understands software development. So he'll give me different things to think about. But really, just because I'm a handsome dude, I dress really well. People like me for the companies, like me at the company. Even some of the women in the company will like make food, bring me food, and bring me snacks. And although this guy, he was in a relationship, he just was threatened. He would get threatened from time and time again. For the most part, I know a good person when I see one, and he was a good person. I just made him insecure. So one of the things that I didn't like about this company, because of these insecurities, my voice wasn't heard. Now, if you're working for a startup, your voice will be heard. It's because the team is so small. And brainstorming occurs. You need to work for when there's brainstorming like on the table. Your word is going to play a bigger role at a startup than it will play at like a larger company. And now, if you have say you have a guy that founded the company who's like comes from wealth, or he's really insecure, then I would advise you not to work for that startup, because most likely it's their way or the highway. And if it doesn't work out because they come from money, they can always get that money again and then start a new business. So that could be rare or not. That could be something that happens often or not, but I'm not sure. But just keep that in mind. You want to get a feel for the leadership of that company, and then basically get a feel for who you're working with. I actually was going to work for this company that was doing earthquake insurance, and let me see if that's one of my. Okay, I'll cover that topic a little bit more. I'm going to go on to you condense 5 years into 1 year. So what do I mean by that? Because you're working for a startup, you get to do, let's say this, when you work for a major company, most of the time you're working on a minute like portion of that application. And because of that, you're not able to grow. There's not enough room for you to expand as a developer or as an employee in general. But when you're working for a startup, because you wear so many hats, because you get to touch so many things, your growth is accelerated. So that's one of the biggest benefits as a software engineer. As I work for a startup. So if you're like, say you work for the startup and it just doesn't work out a year from now, in that 1 year, you've accumulated so much knowledge, and it's going to be way easier for you to get that next job, especially if the startup was your first job. It's going to be way easier for you to get that next job because you actually have some kind of experience, and that's what companies look for. They look for the experience, and if you've actually touched a bunch of tools that are like hot at that moment, it's going to make the hiring process a lot easier for you. For cons, it's risky. So you can get a job at a startup. Like, for example, let me tell you my story. When I first got out of college, it was an earthquake company that I was going to work for, and it was in Oakland, California. So I was flying back and forth from Salt Lake City to Oakland, and I was meeting up with this woman for this company, and she was really cool, and I was excited to work with her. And she had a contract developer already building the mobile application, and she wanted me to work with this contract developer and then ultimately take over that application, which is something I was cool with, because most of the time I've been coding by myself, and then when you get it helps when you work with somebody that's more expert, because it just accelerates your learning. So I was like, okay, cool. But the thing was that like the dates that she would get back to me, she wouldn't get back to me, and then also the dates that she had for like I want to say when she was supposed to release the app, those dates would get postponed, and because of that, there were like issues with my hiring. Like, I didn't know what was going to go on. She wasn't sure what was going to go on. So when you're working for a startup, you may be in this area where you're not sure if you're getting hired or not, but the people are speaking to you as if you're going to be hired. You're not sure when you're going to be paid. There are engineers that have that are in that situation. And then also, when you do get hired, the company can fold in just a few months. So depending on what your lifestyle is, I wouldn't work for a startup if I was in college, and if I was in college or I didn't have any experience, I had no internships or something like that, I would work for a startup, because honestly, you need some kind of entry level, and then honestly, the payoff is very good in the long run. Say the startup it does blow up, you're going to be making 6 figures easily. Or if it doesn't work out, you have that experience, and now you can actually, apply for another job, and then say your hourly wage is now $80 a month, and then $80 an hour, you get paid $5,000 every 2 weeks. So there's pros and cons to it. That's actually everything that I have on this topic. Now, hopefully you guys found this helpful. Like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can follow me on social media at GeekMODE.tech. Now, also, I have an awesome course coming out for you guys. It's called, actually, I'm just going to say the title for when it's released. So keep an eye out for that. But anyways, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you later. Peace.